Now let's discuss how AJAX can be implemented into MVC. As we know, normally AJAX is like we have a JavaScript which is going to be executed by the browser. The JavaScript will give a call to a server asynchronously, and server simply replies data in the form of XML, which later on gets updated by the JavaScript into the UI. And then we don't see any kind of a flickering in the UI. And then small data travels, or the amount of data which is required, only that much travels, not the entire form. And the amount of data that is required only comes to the client side. So we have better usage of bandwidth. And at the same time, we don't have entire full page posting happening to the server side in normal AJAX. Now, when we use XML, can JavaScript actually understand XML natively? So short answer is no, and long answer will be yes, but then we would require some sort of helper libraries. For example, we may require MS XML library by Internet Explorer and similar libraries by other browsers. And then at the same time, if at all we keep on writing code with respect to MS XML plugin on IE, what happens is that code may not work on other browsers. So obviously what happens then is it's an uncommon code written with respect to a browser. And then that may lead to some cross-browser issues. Can XML even server-side understands? So yes, server-side actually understands XML very well. So whether it's a .NET, MVC or Java, it doesn't matter. Everybody understands XML very well because we have enough APIs to deal with XML on server side. Next, whether it's good to use XML or JSON. Like we discussed some time back, whether JSON is good or XML, I did say JSON is good because it's 30% less in size. But there are certain drawbacks as well. That is, JSON does not come with so-called schemas. And that may lead to some problem if at all we have to have some sort of, we can say, cross-platform or cross-technology communication, wherein schema sharing is really required before we pass on any data. Then next thing we have is JSON has a drawback, as I said, like schema does not exist. XML, however, is 30% more in size. And consultant's answer to this I can say question will be it depends, because we can't be very sure about XML and JSON, because whenever schema is required, JSON is not good. Whenever size matters, JSON is good. JSON on the client side. So can JSON is understood by client side or JavaScript or browser? Short answer again, no. Long answer, yes. Maybe we have to add a support for JSON.js. JSON.js is a library given by JSON.org and given by the person who formalized JSON as a data format. And with that, we can understand JSON on the client side JavaScript and we can manipulate that JSON. Do we have server-side support for JSON? As you can see from MVC, we do have a server-side support directly. But then this support was added with MVC. This was added in .NET Framework 3.5. But before that, when support was not there, we all used to use some third-party libraries like Newtonsoft. Then, do we really require JSON.js? Do we really require MSXML kind of plugins? Now we don't. After 2008, when we have got DOM version 2 based browsers, we find out we don't require now any extra support or external support to be given to JSON or XML. Because with DOM 2, along with document, along with window, navigator, history, we get two more objects. That's JSON and XHR. XHR stands for external HTTP request. Now these objects that we have here, these objects are also going to go and help us in coding in JavaScript. These objects can help us in jQuery. These objects also can help us in VBScript as well. Now, what's the plan? What are we planning to do? So we are going to write down some JavaScript in a view that will run on the client-side browser. Then we will pass on some JSON from the client side to server, and we try to capture some JSON from server side to client. Next, on server side, we will send some JSON. We can get some JSON, and JSON result is anyway supported on server side that we all know. Are we going to use plain JavaScript or anything else? So we do have, we can say, JQuery as a library. So JQuery is better than pure JavaScript code writing because it's, first of all, it's lightweight, but anyway it's extra, right? It's lightweight. We have got cross-browser common issues solved with the help of jQuery, and then we have thousands of plugins available built on top of jQuery. It's just a library built on top of JavaScript. If you disable JavaScript, that means jQuery doesn't work. So we'll be using jQuery because it has got very nice support for JSON and AJAX. jQuery comes in two flavors. One is called minified flavor and one is called normal flavor. Normal in the sense uncompressed version, which is along with documentation. Minified in the sense completely compressed variables will be there, compressed function names will be there. That will reduce the size, which is a very good sign for production environment. So during development, one can refer uncompressed code. During production, one can very well launch the application with the help of compressed version also. So let's switch context now to our code. So let's first of all go to Visual Studio. I'll add a new project again. Let's name this project as test AJAX. And one more time we'll have empty, maybe whether it's razor engine or so, it actually doesn't matter. And then we'll add one very simple controller, which is called again home controller, along with default method called as index. Then there is nothing like a view. So let's add a view as well. Let's call this as index razor view without a master page. So no master page, let's add this. So we have index.cshtml here. And things to do, as I said, I would like to give a call to the server side using jQuery. So the first thing we have to add a jQuery library. Maybe I'll also try to do one more thing, add a folder here. Let's call this as scripts. There's no script available as of now. So let me open this folder. We have this folder wherein we will copy the path and I'll visit jQuery.com now. As I said sometime back, jQuery comes in two flavors. Let's say download jQuery, the latest version of jQuery that we have. And as I said, it comes in two versions. One is compressed version, one is uncompressed version. I would prefer the uncompressed version. So let me say right click and save the content as, and I'll provide the path which is this. Let me say save it. Now suddenly, after, let me close the browser now. And here if I refresh, I would see the script available in here now. So let's include this in the project now. So we have it here. And then in the project, I'm going to refer this script. So after we refer the script, now it's time to go and code against the script. So things to do now. We'll have a simple button here, not submit button, a normal button. We'll have an ID for the button offered. Let's offer an ID called BTM. And let's offer a name for the button called get data in JSON form from server. And then on click of this button, we would like to code in JQuery. So hopefully you are familiar with JQuery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask JQuery, which means dollar. JQuery, please, whenever every element inside the HTML page is ready, execute this function without a name. Then I'll ask, once everything is ready, jQuery, please find out a button by ID for me. ID of the button is BTN. And tell that button on click, execute this function. Function without a name again. Name will be offered by jQuery. And then now using jQuery, I'm going to give a call to server side using AJAX. So we have got certain parameters. And if you see support for JSON is AJAX as a function expects a parameter which is JSON itself. So what I'm going to specify here is URL to give a call to. Then on success, which function to call. So we'll specify function without a name. And then on error, which function to call is this function without a name. But where is my result? You may store the result as a parameter. You may get error as a parameter. If anything goes wrong in error, I would show alert and specify something is wrong. So something is not right here. And then in case of result, what data comes up, we will try to do the debugging of the same. So I'm going to add a debugger on the client side. Now the next thing to do is which URL or which particular page we have to call on a server side. We won't be calling a page, we'll be calling action method. So let me write down one action method which simply returns JSON result. And that would be suppose get data as a method. So as we discussed it last time, I'm going to copy the code from you can say last application. So like I copied the code, I have employee class object class, and then I'm going to return this entire JSON object which I copied from the previous application. That was a test result application which you can see unloaded here. So now that we are going to return employees in the form of JSON, and who's going to give a call to get data is simple button click is going to give a call to that function. So how do we give a call? I need to give a call to home/get data as a function, and that get data function will return JSON data on the client side. Let's see where the call goes. If at all it by any chance goes to error, I would like to see the error details. So I'll put debugger in error as well. Now it's time that we can go and give a call to index. Let's see what happens now. I'll say F12 so that we can see the development tools. Let me click on the button now. And if I let me show you like the on click, it basically hits the server side. So you click, it goes to server side. Server side will simply execute the code. And now when I say run, it should break in the source. So where is the code it has broken into? So I need to see under resources section. Maybe I should pause this and run code one more time because the window is gone, which basically shows us the development tools. Again, I'd say F12 here, show the development tool to me. Click on the button and it pauses in the debugger. Now, as you can see, it basically breaks into something called as success function. And then if you see the result, if I type the result on the console, you can see the result has got 3 objects. If you expand each of the object, you can see it holds the actual data from it. And now what we can do is, we can very well construct the UI or construct some alerts based on half of the data being returned. So what can be done is, instead of now debugging, we can simply specify for I equal to 0 till the length of the result. I would like to show alerts. I'd say alert now. Alert result of I dot maybe name. Maybe we can append that with the help of result of I dot address. Now let's run this code and see how without flickering the data appears on the screen. So no breakpoint anywhere. You just click and the data appears on the screen. So it looks like we have a problem. Result dot length. Yes, we have a problem that there was extra dot in the code. Again, I'll run the code. Again, we'll click on the button and you can see now ABC1 Pune 1, ABC2 Pune 2 and ABC3 Pune 3. This data which is dummy data comes on the client side without causing any flickering at all. So this way it becomes very easy to fetch the data from the server side to client side. In the same way, can we pass on some data from client side to server side? So remember the case wherein we have submitted data to server side using form and we always have specified post as a method. So imagine a situation, we have a method which returns action result now and expected parameter is let's say set data as a function. And expected parameter that we have imagined is employee object emp. And then what we want to do is I just want to return maybe content result. So I would specify content result here. It's not hard and fast, it has to be content result, it can be anything, you can return the UI as well. New content result, and I would specify that the content is going to be, I specify hello and plus whatever comes from the client side, hello and a name. And the content type I would specify is very simple, text slash HTML. Now, next thing is, how do I give a call to set data as I want to call this over HTTP post? So by default, whenever jQuery offered a call, default call was always over get. Now things I have to change is in the UI, just like we have a button called as get the data, I would like to set the data now. Yeah. So let's say button number or btn set is the name of the button. And we'll specify now set data in JSON to server or send data in JSON form to server. Now using this button set click, I want to set some JSON data back to the server. That's very simple. Again, I'm going to handle the button click. So I'm going to ask jQuery, please help me find out btn set by ID, and on click of that button, please execute this piece of code. And in the code, please help me raise AJAX call to the server side, wherein I would ask it to give a call to the server /home/set data as a function. On successful call, I would like to say execute some function. I would say function without a parameter. I would say error, again a function without a parameter. I would specify a result here, and then just the content result is a result, so I would simply say alert and the result plus received from server side. And then in case of error, I would collect the error. I would simply specify in alert that something is wrong, and then you may put a debugger just to check in case if anything is wrong. Now at the same time, I will also specify debugger here, if at all, just to check if at all success it comes, but it does not carry result also, just to say check the data. But the problem now, I need to pass on the data which is of type EMP here, and client side doesn't know about the EMP. Not to worry at all. What we can do is we can always, before we give a call, why can't we just go and construct a JSON object? How? This is by default supported on the client side because we are working on DOM2 based browser, the browser after 2008 here. So I'm going to create now a new object in JSON form. Let's get the object and let's specify values. So values for number, name, and address. So I will specify number colon, suppose 100. Let's specify name colon. Maybe let's put now value as suppose STC. Let's specify now address. No intelligence because it's client side code. Client side doesn't know about the server side data, and it's specify over here as mobile. So this is JSON data that I have, and this JSON data should go as a parameter to the EMP as a parameter value. So what we have to do is we have to specify certain parameters out here, extra parameters now. And those parameters are, first thing we specify what are we trying to send from the client side to server side. So are we planning to send some data? Are we planning to get some data from the server side? So we may specify I want to send some data, which in turn is a value for EMP. Let's specify EMP colon, and then the value is specifically for JSON data. Then we'll say plus, and then we will try to complete this bracket. This is one part. Now this entire JSON data that we have, we may go and do a string, we can say form a string out of it. So one option is we may use JSON objects. Now how can I get JSON here? Because that comes from DOM2. I would specify stringify this is data. So if there's anything which is like encoded characters also, those characters will automatically be taken into allowable characters. I'll have employee passed on. You may specify that the data type that we may want to pass on to server side is of type JSON. And if anything we expect from server side, I would expect the parameter or value of type JSON. Now that's absolutely not required because anyway we have content is written right now. So I would specify URL, give a call, pass on EMP value, data type is JSON. On success do this, and on error do this is what we'll specify now. So I guess we have to specify content type, not data type. Let's specify content type as application/JSON. Let's see what happens now. Let's hit a call, and we have two buttons on the UI now. Let's see what happens. Send data in a JSON format to the server. Let's click here, and it ends up into something is wrong. So we must have missed some brackets somewhere. So maybe I need to check now whether data is in correct format or not. Maybe let's do one thing. Let's try to form this entire content. Let's take this entire content here. I would say data is equal to collect entire data. I would specify EMP colon and this data. Looks like this is better. And then we can simply pass on here data equal to data. Let's try running it now. Hopefully we'll, otherwise we'll break the code. Send data in JSON format, still something is wrong. So maybe I should break the code now and check. So let's put debugger here and let's try to break into the code. So send data again in JSON format. So let's run with I because it can break into the Visual Studio quickly. Run now, and then let's give a call send data. It breaks into the code. Let me see the data in the format right now. So data consists of EMP and it's not a number is what it specifies. Okay, so we have a problem. It's not collecting the data which is EMP data right now. Maybe I should convert entire thing into the string itself. Let's complete this plus, and let's complete this even. Now let's try to run the code. F5, again click on the button, and we'll have a data which is EMP data set right now. All well. Now let's try to continue, and we have an error again. So let's try to see the error. Resource cannot be found. So it's trying to give a call to a resource which in turn is, okay, so is function name correct? That is one more thing I need to check here. Let's close. We have set data. Is that the function name? Set data. And okay, the problem is this is called over HTTP post, and I did not specify whether we are calling over post or so. If you recall, I said sometime back, default call using jQuery always goes over get. So it's my responsibility to specify the call has to go over post. That's one thing which is missed. Now let's run the call. Again, let's click on the button, and now let's continue. Now after we continue, as you can see on server side, you can find out the data which is passed on the client side, STC 100 in Mumbai, comes up, which means server-side MVC is capable of taking or understanding JSON data passed on from the client, collect that data, and then create an object even using the default model binder that we have. And I'll be returning now this hello. So we end up in success now, and we have a result here. And the message is simple hello STC. If I say continue, it simply gives me alert message in the browser, which says hello STC received from the server side. So let me close this. Let me not debug the code now. Let me remove the breakpoint from the code. And then let's see what happens without a breakpoint. It should run quickly. Run the code now. Send data, and we directly get hello STC from server side itself. It's that simple. So we can very well pass on the data, and we can very well get the data as well. So that's it for jQuery AJAX. With the help of MVC, we have seen passing data in JSON format, collecting it on the server side, and replying back the JSON data and collecting it on the jQuery side.